Um, I am. Have you ever? Well, let me ask you this way: if you were going to lose something, what would you choose to lose? And before you even say anything, pounds do not count. Something important to you. If you were going to lose something that was important to you, what would you choose to lose? It's an interesting question, and here's why. Because it gives you a new perspective on what's truly important to you. What could you live without if you knew that you were going to lose it and never get it back again? What could you live without? Losing things is a natural part of life for people who have a poor memory like I do. Losing things, I just expect to lose things, unfortunately. I have a specific place where when I come home, specific place where I put my wallet, a specific place where I put my keys, and a place where I put my glasses. And they're all right there together. And if, for some reason, I forget to put them there, my wife knows about it. Because I ask her, hey, do you know what I did with my keys? Do you know what I did with my... And of course, her response is, I didn't have them. And so I'm left trying to figure out, usually it is the last place I put them. Listen, if you don't find something in the last place you look, you're looking too long. My keys that I hang up there, you know what? I could do without those keys. You know why? Because I have a copy of every one of them somewhere else. I could lose my running shoes and be okay with it. I've been training for this half marathon, and I realized that the Saturday of the half marathon is the Saturday before I leave for a 5-day golfing trip. The last time I attempted to run the half marathon, I don't know if you remember this, I twisted my ankle so bad I had to preach from a chair for the next 3 weeks. What's more important, running in the half marathon or going golfing? I would be very sympathetic if I knew there weren't other people going to be jogging too. And let's be honest with you. She's running much faster than I am this year. We would start together, but she would leave me the moment she had a chance. Now, I have trained, so I am going to actually run 13.1 miles. I'm just going to do it the week before everybody else does it. And that way, I can be first place and last place all at the same time. I lost my train of thought, so something you don't want to lose. There are some things that we lose that we don't care about. Some things that we lose that we deeply care about. If you've ever lost a loved one, you know. This past December, my mom passed away. And then in, March, Jeanette's stepmom passed away. You know, there are things we lose that we don't want to lose. But that's kind of the way life is. And you know how important something is to you, not because you lost it, but after you do when you lose it. How intently you search for that thing after you lose it says a lot about how important it is to you. If you've ever lost a wedding ring, you look for it, and you look for it, and you look for it. until you find it because it's important to you. If you lose a keychain that somebody bought you when they were on vacation for a place you don't care about, and you lose it, guess what? How hard are you going to look for that? You're not. You're almost going to be thankful because it was an ugly keychain anyway. There is something that is so important to God that he is going to do everything in his power to find it. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're starting a new series called Once Upon a Time. And actually, Once Upon a Time gives you the idea of a fairy tale, but these are not fairy tales. These are actually parables. We're going to be looking at not all of them, but some of the parables that we read in the New Testament that Jesus actually tells. And these are stories, these short stories. They don't have a lot of detail. Some of them have more, some of them have less. But they're just a simple story to communicate a profound truth. And today, we're going to be looking at one of the most famous, and there have been a lot of songs written about this, and it deals directly with finding something that is valuable to you. Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 1 through 7. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. So Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go search for the one that was lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me because I have found my lost sheep." In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. So we've all heard this story before, or this parable before. Jesus is telling about the sheep, the one sheep that goes off. And Jesus leaves the 99 to go, or the shepherd leaves the 99 to go find the other sheep, the one that just decided he wasn't going to stick around. And he's telling this story for a specific reason. He's not emphasizing yet, and I want to emphasize yet, the going away and finding the sheep. That is an important part of it. But he's telling the story because of what the Pharisees and the religious rulers were doing. What were they doing? They were criticizing him for spending time with people they thought he shouldn't spend time with. In other words, he was spending time with what Jesus considered to be the lost. And so he's making a point here that the lost people are very important. In fact, they're so important, when they are found, all of heaven's angels rejoice. But he doesn't stop there. We read about God chasing after his sheep in Ezekiel chapter 34, verses 1 through 6. It says this: "Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds, the leaders of Israel. Give them this message from the Lord. What sorrow awaits you, shepherds, who feed yourselves instead of your flocks? Shouldn't shepherds feed their sheep? You drink the milk, wear the wool, and butcher the best animals, but you let your flocks starve. You have not taken care of the weak. You have not tended the sick or bound up the injured. You have not gone looking for those who have wandered away and are lost. Instead, you have ruled them with harshness and cruelty. So my sheep have been scattered without a shepherd, and they are easily prey for any wild animal. They have wandered through all of the mountains and all the hills across the face of the earth, yet no one has gone to search for them." Ezekiel is talking about the same thing that Jesus is talking about. There are lost sheep out there. There's something lost. And in Ezekiel, he's making a complaint that the earthly shepherds were not doing their job, taking care of the sheep and looking for the lost sheep. What those earthly shepherds in Ezekiel was talking about was, I'm just going to do what I want to do. I'm going to reap the benefits of having the sheep without taking care of the sheep. But a little later on, God makes a bold statement. For this is what the sovereign Lord, verse 11 and 12. For this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself, this is God talking, okay? I myself will search and find my sheep. I will be like a shepherd looking for his scattered flock. I will find my sheep and rescue them from all the places where they were scattered on that dark and cloudy day. God himself looks for lost sheep. We do a terrible job. We do a terrible job of looking for lost sheep in comparison to God. And I can tell you why it is. Because we do not love people the way God loves people. I guarantee you, if we had just a small sense of the love that God had for people, we would do a better job of searching for the lost, reaching out for the lost, finding the lost, communicating to the lost. But not only sheep, there's another story that Jesus goes right into, right after he gets talking about the sheep being lost and being found and they're being rejoicing. He goes into verse 8, which says, or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call in her friends and neighbors and say, rejoice with me because I have found my lost coin. In the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels when even one sinner repents. Different story, but for the most part, the same things happen. Something gets lost, somebody looks for it, it's found, and there's rejoicing. But guess what? This isn't the only thing that Jesus talks about. There's one more story in this series of 3 about something being lost. It's found in Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 32. And a lot of people, they call it the prodigal son. I like to call it the lost son simply because that's exactly what he is. Okay, and I'm not going to read it because it's pretty long, but you know the story. I'm going to recap real quick. Man has 2 sons. One of them comes and says, Father, give me my inheritance. And there's a lot to this story that we miss because we don't understand Jewish culture back then, but that's something he shouldn't have done to begin with. And his dad didn't have to do it, but dad chose to do it. And he gives his son his inheritance. His son goes off, spends it in wild living. Famine hits. He spends all of it. I mean, all of it. All of it. Famine hits, and he has nothing to eat. So he finally begs for a job, the lowest of low jobs, which is feeding pigs. You have to be really hungry if you are willing to eat what pigs eat. Because I've never seen a pig eat a nice cooked steak. You know, if they did, maybe some of them do, I don't know. If they did, I'd be right there with them. Probably not in the mud eating it, but you know what? Pretty much pigs are going to eat whatever you throw in front of them. And they're going to eat it out of the mud and the dirt. And we don't. This guy must have been really hungry. I kind of think of it, if you've ever been in a third world country, and I went to I went to Mexico a couple of times on missions trips, and once in Mexico, once in Colombia, and we had the opportunity to see how some of the poorest people in those countries live. And they are literally, you see kids, young kids, and some adults, big, huge pile of trash. And they are digging through the trash just to find something to eat. That's where this guy was. He was desperate. And then he came to his senses. He says, you know what? My dad's servants are better taken care of, better fed than this. I'm going to go back home, and I'm just going to ask to be part of my dad's servants. So he goes back, and his dad sees him as he's coming back, and his dad runs to him. And he says, Dad, I'm no longer worthy. He understood what he did. He says, I'm no longer worthy to be your son. Take me as your servant. And his dad does something completely out of the blue. A lot of parents would be mad that their kid went and foolishly spent all of their money. But what makes this so important is because the dad didn't know whether his son was dead or alive. When he found out that his son, who he thought was dead, was now alive, it was a reason to rejoice. So, kill the fatted calf, have a party. The other son, on the other hand, was not very happy about it. It's almost like he could care less that his brother was gone, but now that he's back and they're throwing a party, he complains to his father. The moral of all three of these stories, the significant aspect of all three of these stories revolves around the attitude of the people who rejoice when they found what they were looking for, and the attitude of those who didn't like it, specifically the brother who stayed home. They were the Pharisees and the religious leaders, condemning Jesus for spending his time with tax collectors and sinners. Notorious sinners is what it says here, but so is that all we get from that story? Is that we have to have the right attitude? And this is a very important aspect of this story. It's not the only one, but the very important aspect of the story is that when we see somebody else do something, how do we respond? Specifically getting saved, we should all rejoice. But have you ever known somebody who really was a terrible, terrible, terrible person? You really didn't like him at all. And they got saved, and your first thought was, well, I wonder how long that's going to last. I'm sure we've all had that thought. I know I have. You know what thought that is? That's the same thought, the same reasoning that the Pharisees had. They didn't say the same thing, but they pretty much were telling Jesus, you're wasting your time. When Jesus knew very well that's what he came to do. And when we have a comment like, well, I wonder how long that's going to last, what we're telling God is, well, God, you made a mistake here. There are people who get caught up emotionally in the experience of knowing and experiencing God. And if that emotion, that emotional event doesn't transfer to a life change, sure, it's not gonna last them. It's going to be an experience that they had once. instead of a renewed life. And that's not what that's not what Jesus came to do. But who are we to judge a person's experience with God? In fact, if anything, we should be happy for the people that we don't like when they get saved, because now they're part of our family and we get to love them instead. Have you tried loving somebody you don't like? You do a terrible job at it. I'm just saying. So this bad attitude that these Pharisees had was the purpose behind Jesus telling these three lost parables. And I want to emphasize this because our attitude toward people, whether lost or unlost, plays a big part in how we treat them. Even after they get saved. How should we respond to people? Well, we should celebrate the fact that they were lost and now they are found. Have you ever lost your driver's license? You know what you have to go through to get a new ID. Now I don't know what I don't exactly know what it's like here, but I know in Georgia they had a 6-point program. And so certain things were worth certain points, like your birth certificate was worth a point. Your Social Security card was worth a point, and you had to have 6 points based on what certain things were worth before you could go in and they would issue you a new driver's license or a new ID card. If there's one thing I don't want to lose, if it's just a physical thing, my driver's license, because it's so hard to replace. But some of us get more upset or more rejoicing happens more in our lives when we find some physical thing, possession of ours. We get so ecstatic about it. If you lose your wedding ring, your husband spends $8,000 on your wedding ring and you lose it, and then you find it and you're so excited, but then somebody gets saved and you're like, oh, well, that's nice. Wonder how long that's going to last. Jesus was giving the disciple, or the Pharisees and the religious leaders, a wake-up call into what is really important. Now I want to look at a couple of things within these. Romans 12:15 says this: "Be happy with those who are happy, and weep with those who weep." I go on and on, talk about how this should be part of our life. But, it's really frustrating because sometimes I hear people complain about good things happening to other people. And I know why they're complaining. They're complaining not so much because the good things happened to somebody else. They're complaining because the good thing didn't happen to them. That's what they're really... It's not that somebody else is succeeding as much as it is they are not succeeding. And I can show you how this works. If I had a $100 bill and I gave it to one of you, everybody else would be, man, I wish I had a $100 bill. If I had a $100 bill for everybody in this room and gave each of you a $100 bill, would you be complaining about the other person getting a $100 bill? No. Why? Because you got yours. It's not about what somebody else gets. It's about what you don't get. And that is really the issue at most people's heart when it comes to not celebrating other people, not being happy for other people. This story there's a reason, and I want to illustrate why this celebrating the lost being found is so important in Jesus's stories. And you can see this because over half of the words that he uses for these stories are not about the things being lost, but about the things being found. Not even just about the things being found, but about the rejoicing being found. Take the book, the story of the lost son. 190 Greek words are used for Jesus to set up the story about the son leaving, spending all of his money, and coming back. 190 words. He spends 199 words talking about celebrating the return of the lost and the party they're going to throw and the other son's disappointment. What do you think is more important to Jesus? What do you think the emphasis of this story is? And if you look at the other two stories, you find the same type of thing. While he sets up a story, but the point of the issue isn't something was lost or even that it was found, but there's this celebration going on when it's found. But there are three very specific differences that we see in these three stories. And I think we all fit into one of these three significant things. The coin, it was just a coin. It was lost. You know what a coin cannot do? It cannot move by itself. You know what a coin cannot do? It cannot think. You know what a coin does? It sits there. Think about a sheep now. You know what a sheep can do? It can move. You know what a sheep can do? It can think, although its thinking capacity is limited. The coin was lost, but couldn't go anywhere. The sheep was lost. Why do you think the sheep was lost? Do you think that the shepherd took 99 of the sheep and says, hey guys, we're all going to go over here and leave this one behind? No. What happened? Shepherd's out here, he's got his 100 sheep, and they're having fun as you can with a bunch of sheep. I don't know. I've never been a shepherd, so I don't know. So they're over here, and they're doing stuff, and he's probably taking, correcting some of his sheep, kind of keeping the group together. And then there's this one sheep. We'll call him George. I'm trying to think of a name that I was going to call him Larry, but I know two Larrys in here, and I didn't want to do that either. So call him George. And George likes to eat. So he puts his head down. Nom, 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 nom. And what's he doing? He's following food. Nom, 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 nom. All of the other sheep are over here in the group, staying together. And George is over here. Nom, 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 nom. Next thing you know, George is by himself. There's nobody around. And so what does he do? Nom, 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 nom. Here's the thing with sheep. He gets lost, but doesn't realize he's getting lost. The coin didn't care one way or the other. The sheep gets lost, but doesn't realize what he does is he slowly separates himself from the shepherd. And he doesn't realize it's happening. He wasn't like, oh, look, there's a shepherd. I'm going to make him mad. He's going to have to come find me. Let me run over here real quick. I think a lot of us, while we might not be completely lost in the sense that we are separated from God completely, but we unintentionally separate ourselves from the shepherd because we want to satisfy our own desires. Then there's a third person, a third story, and that is the lost son. And unfortunately, I have seen people do this. This is a person who makes a conscious thought and effort to go against his father's will. He knows what he's doing. Maybe he thinks it's okay. Maybe he thinks everything will be okay. But he specifically goes against what he knows his father thinks is correct. And pretty much he's saying, God, Dad, I know what you're going to say. I know this is wrong, but I want to do it anyway. So just give it to me so I can get out of here. And there are people who have experienced at least part of the goodness of God, and what he's done in their life, and they have chosen to just run away. They take what they can get and they run away. They're not like the sheep. The sheep, he just kind of meandered. He didn't realize he was getting away from the shepherd. But the son knew exactly what he was doing. And he didn't care. When somebody, and we see two separate things in the sheep and the son. The sheep, the shepherd goes and looks for the sheep, specifically hunting the sheep down. You ain't getting out of here. I'm going to go find you. He finds it, he celebrates, takes it back home. The father, on the other hand, sees the son leave, but doesn't go after him. And why is that? Why is that? Because it would not give the son the opportunity to come back. If somebody wants to go their own way, and somebody else pursues them, trying to convince them to change their mind, it's kind of like what God did with Pharaoh. He hardened his heart. What you're doing is you are solidifying their decision to abandon what they know is right. One thing that we need to realize is that we care so much to God that He will do anything and everything in His power to reconcile us to Himself. We care. We care to God. Genesis 1:26-27 says this. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image to be like us." If you ever have or will have the opportunity to have a little human that looks like you, it's a whole new world. Luke 19:10 says, "For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who were lost." Seek and save. 1 John 3:1. I see how very much our Father loves us, for He calls us His children, and that is what we are. Matthew 20:28. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Romans 5:8. But God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. Some of you have a skewed view of who you are in God's eyes. Maybe you think, well, I've just done too many things wrong. There is nothing that you have done that Jesus' sacrifice cannot atone for. Maybe some of you are thinking, well, God just doesn't know what's going on inside my head. He just doesn't understand the evil thoughts that I have. God does. You are not loved because of the things you've done. You are not loved because of the thoughts you've had. You're not loved because of the clothes you wear, because what the scale says. You are not loved because you don't have hair or you do have hair. You're not loved because of who your friends are. You're not loved because of who your parents are. You're not loved because of how successful you are or unsuccessful you are. You are loved because you are God's child, period. And what this story shows us, apart that we have to have the right attitude when when celebrating with others who are found, what this story tells us is that there is nothing God won't do to save you, even sacrificing the life of his own son. Isaiah 53:6. All of us like sheep have gone astray, have strayed away. We have left God's path to follow our own. Yet the Lord laid on him, Jesus, the sin of us all. I want to read. We sing a song here called "Reckless Love," and we're going to sing it as a closing and an altar time. And I want to read I want to read the chorus. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. It chases me down, fights till I'm found, and leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it. I don't deserve it. Still, you gave yourself away. Maybe you have struggled with feeling loved, whether it's by other people or even loved by God. Know this, there is no place or thing he won't do, because he's already done it, to be reconciled to you. Your worth is not in your mind, not in your body, it's not in your accomplishments. Your worth is in who God says you are. As we open up the altars, I want you, if you struggle with that, find a place here and let God work in your life. Let him reveal to you who you are to him. And once you figure out who you are to God, nobody else's opinion matters. But there's also two types of people. One is the person who's distanced themselves from God. They know God. They just found themselves at a distance from God. Don't know how they got there. Probably had their head down chewing on food as they were wandering away. Feeding the flesh. I don't know. But somehow you feel distance from God and you just don't know how you got there. If that's you, when we open up the altars, I want you to come. And I want you to get back into the fold. To let Jesus come and find you and bring you back. Or maybe you're that third person, that son who decided, yeah, God, I know it's not good for me, but I'm going to do it anyway. And you've just been running your own way. God is just waiting. He's sitting there on the front porch like this father, looking, waiting to see a glimpse of you coming back so that he can run to you. That's what he wants to do. So I want to encourage you, as Paul starts leading this song, find a place. Or maybe you just have a bad attitude about people coming to know God. You just have a bad attitude about celebrating with people. Maybe you need to find a place up here. Or maybe there's something wrong and you just don't know what it is. Maybe you need to find a place up here. Or maybe you know somebody who needs prayer. Maybe you need to be an intercessor for them. Let's take this few moments and let God work in our life. The thing about the sheep is that they don't often know that they're lost. They don't even know that they need somebody to find them. I want to encourage you to make sure that you know where you are with God. Listen, the son, he knew exactly what he was doing. It was the wrong thing, but he knew what he was doing. The sheep, on the other hand, didn't know. And so it's important for us to know where we are with God. Are we half-hearted with God? Dad, I'm going to follow you, God, as long as you're heading in the same direction I am. I want to close. We're going to do this song one more time. I want everybody to stand up with me. We're going to end this service singing this song. And I want you to sing this song as a thankful prayer to God. Being thankful that there is nothing he wouldn't do for you. Not you as in a group of people, but you as an individual. You as a student, you as a mother, you as a father, you as a spouse, you as a single guy, single girl. There's nothing he wouldn't do. And so we're going to close with a worship song thanking Jesus for his reckless love. God, we thank you that you love us more than we could imagine. So much so that you gave your most valuable thing you had, your son, so that we could be reunited with you, reconciled in your eyes. You gave The dead new life. The lost is found because of you. The sheep is reunited with the shepherd. The Son is reunited with the Father. And we thank you. It's all because of your love. Now let us go, confident in who we are in you, and in the ability to go out and live a life that you've called us to live. We love you. We thank you. And we ask all this in your name. Amen. Amen. One thing, as you're on your way out, there's a table with a piece of paper and a package of Skittles taped to it. Take one. The piece of paper is for you to pray for the kids. The Skittles, you can do whatever you want with them. I would suggest eating them because they're good. So be blessed. We'll love you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday.